You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, guys. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. How are you today? Broadcasting live from East Greenbush, New York. Still the first and only live streaming sports webcast from East Greenbush. Maybe that's why Facebook took me down. They don't like people from East Greenbush. I'll get to that in a second. Guys, today we're going to talk. Oh, listen, I want to thank all my groups that allow me to share this. I want to thank all the viewers that we have, the people who participate in the room every morning, especially Sunday mornings with the back and forth. Good morning, Drew. Drew found me. Good. We'll talk about that in a second. Dave Guyette, good morning. I want to thank my guest from Friday, Mike Heath, former member of the 1978 World Champion Yankees. And Mike had a really, really solid career with the A's, the Tigers, through the 80s into the 90s. Really good player, really good guy. We had a great conversation. And my guest next week will be Denny McLain, last 30-game winner in Major League Baseball, two-time Cy Young Award winner, MVP in the American League, and a very, very colorful career, both on and off the field. If you know anything about Denny McLain, it's going to be a fun interview. So, again, thanks to the groups that allow me to share this. I apologize to the groups that are part of the Northeast Streaming, the TGI Sports Talk page that I am unable to show this to. Thousands of people that are not part of Northeast Streaming Sports necessarily, or friends of mine on my personal page where I'm broadcasting the show to now. And again, I want to welcome the Zodiac viewers too, by the way. I don't want to leave them out. Welcome to all of you at Zodiac TV, by the way. I'm glad you could join us. And again, that outlet will not go away. My problems with Facebook, and let me just touch on this quickly. And I'm liable to have a live broadcast daily, very soon, all about my travails with Facebook. I'm not happy. We're on day 5, guys. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. But day 5, Facebook has not contacted me other than to say there was content that was removed, which meant my entire page. So all of my followers, and we're up over 1,200, I believe, before I got, who knows? I mean, maybe they'll all be gone. Maybe all my content will be gone forever. I don't know. No content, no communication. And it's just not cool, right? I'm not going to berate them too badly here today. But you know what, Facebook? Here, let me put this up real quick. And you guys, look at, I hope that some of you, there we go. There's my message to Facebook. Put TGI Sports Talk page back up, or at least communicate with me and tell me what the problem was, because I haven't violated any terms of service that I'm aware of. Certainly haven't put unlawful content up, which is what your vague message to me said, and you've had no communication with me since. So I would urge all of the people that watch this show on TGI, on my page, on the Northeast Streaming Sports page, on Zodiac TV, or any of the groups that I do share it to. I will share it. From Northeast Streaming Sports to the groups that I belong to personally. But I got dozens of groups that want to see the content that I'm not able to share it to from TGI Sports Talk. So anybody who sees this or any of the messages that I put up in the future, because I may go scorched earth here soon. If I do, I'll probably get kicked off Facebook eventually. Anyway, do I think Facebook cares, guys? Don't get me wrong. I don't think Facebook gives a crap about me, my show, my followers. If I were to leave and all of my, between my personal page and Northeast Streaming Sports and my TGI Sports Talk page, if all 4,000 people that follow me went with me, they wouldn't care. There's 3 billion people probably using Facebook. So do they care? Probably not. But let's get it back up, guys. And if you guys want to send a note to them, go to your settings, look for support and help tab, and send them a note. Tell them TGI Sports Talk was took down for no good reason. Nobody's communicating with the page admin or the host, and ask them to put it back up. Anyway, enough about that. Any comments? All right. Sorry, guys, you aren't hearing me rail about Facebook. You will be able to catch the shows for now on Northeast Streaming Sports, on my personal page, on Zodiac TV. Guys, any of you who are not following Northeast Streaming Sports, please do so. So at least you'll be able to see the content. And I'll have a decision to make at some point. If they don't make this right, it'll be about whether I stay on Facebook in any form, which would mean I would not appear on the shows my shows wouldn't appear, obviously. I'll find another outlet. I am on YouTube, but I put my efforts into Facebook. YouTube's just kind of there. Get 10 views a show, I'm happy. But here's where we get thousands of views. Facebook doesn't care. I'll move. And I won't appear on any shows either, which means I won't be on the Mac and Jack show. I won't do the Northeast or the NFC East show that I appear on Wednesday nights as a contributor. I'm not a Washington Redskins fan, by the way. Be clear about that. I am there as a contributor. But that's where we stand, guys. And I don't want to belabor the point. Let's get on with the show. We'll talk about it maybe at the end if we have time again. But again, I apologize. I don't know who's going to see this. I'm apologizing to people who won't even see it. But when I do get back up, I will share the shows that have not been posted to TGI Sports Talk. Hopefully it's soon. 5 days today, guys. 5 days. All right. I guess 7 minutes of that nonsense is enough. Big story this week, obviously, guys, is the NFL. The NFL draft was the last 3 days. We did a great, fun show Thursday night for the first round on Northeast Streaming Sports. I co-hosted with Mac and Jack from the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We had a lot of great guests. Jim Jeffcoat from the ex-Cowboys was there. Ex-Cowboy player was there. We had Tom Keegan, sports writer, joined us. All the shows from Northeast Streaming Sports, or many of the shows from Northeast Streaming Sports, joined us. The host from Unscripted, the safety and the sports writer were there. Big Shaw was there. So again, all of those shows were there. It was a lot of fun. Long day, man. I'll tell you, long day. Worked 12 hours at my real job, basically, maybe 11. And then jumped on there at 6 o'clock, and we were on until after midnight. So it was a lot of fun, though. We're going to recap the draft in a second. The big news before the draft is Aaron Rodgers, my favorite player, and I know Rick Sherlock's favorite player. That crazy Raider guy. Yeah, I can't forget Captain Jack. I'm sorry, Captain Jack. I didn't mean to leave you out. Captain Jack knows more stuff. I mean, he has got a great act, but watch his show on Northeast Streaming Sports, and he doesn't get into that character specifically, and he's really an intelligent guy. Top story is not the Kentucky Derby. It's funny, I didn't even get into the Derby this year. I don't know if it's because of it just ran in September from last year. I'm usually a big Triple Crown fan. Might even put a few shekels on the event, but I didn't even watch any of it. So we won't be getting into the Derby today. But the big story is the NFL. And before the NFL draft, Aaron Rodgers had to speak up and apparently told a few of his teammates that he didn't want to be a Packer anymore. Way to steal the thunder from the draft there, Aaron. And the other question is, what kind of leverage do you have, by the way? The team isn't getting rid of you. And what are you going to do, retire and kiss away $96 million? Doubtful. You're going to host Jeopardy? You're not going to make it. I watched you. You were okay. You're not going to win. I think Anderson Cooper has done a great job, by the way. I think he is probably the leader in the clubhouse at the moment, with Ken Jennings a close second. But Aaron Rodgers, has ripped the team and again, and he probably is not happy with the draft, is my guess. But the coach, LaFleur, has said that he'd be shocked if Aaron Rodgers wasn't wasn't a Packer. We'll see. But he needs to shut up. Let's get into the draft, guys. Actually, before I get into the draft, couple quick notes. I think Urban Meyer did a great job. We'll touch on Jacksonville in a second. Seahawks are looking at bringing Richard Sherman back possibly as he mulls his career options. The SEC set a new record with 65 picks yesterday, and they also hold the 3 spots below that. Yesterday, I should say the last 3 days. And of course, before we even get to all the top drop picks, let's talk about Mr. Irrelevant, always a big story. Grant Stewart from Houston linebacker was the last pick of the draft by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Great story, too. Had a horrible upbringing, foster care. His mother was a drug addict and a sex worker, and his dad spent a lot of his formative years in prison. And apparently they're part of his life now and cleaning up their acts. But as a young man, or a child even, he did not have the best of lives. Aaron Rodgers, yes, is the biggest whiner in the league. I agree. Let's jump into the draft here. A couple quick notes before we go in here. Offensive players winners here. First 7 picks off the board were offensive players. It's the latest of first defenders gone since 1967. 8 quarterbacks taken through the first 3 rounds were the most in the common draft era. It's also the first time that there were at least 5 wide receivers taken in each of the first 3 rounds. That's 15 wide receivers. We knew this was going to be a heavy wide receivers season. It was a very deep draft for wide receivers and cornerbacks. I think were the biggest, the deepest positions. But it also tells you a little bit how the NFL is changing. And again, there weren't any really special defenders available. There were some, and there's some guys fell, which I was shocked at, and we'll talk about as we go along. But all in all, it was a fun draft. And some shocking things. Obviously, the 3rd pick, 49ers taking Trey Lance. A lot of people, I was never sold they were going to take Mac Jones, to be honest with you. We'll talk about his selection by the Patriots in a little bit. But the biggest shock to me was that pick. And then the 2 cornerbacks, Horn and Surtain, going as early as they went, kind of shook things up a little bit too. But let's look at every team. We'll start with the teams of interest here. I don't see Billy in the room, so I'm not going to jump to the Jets just yet. Since Rick is here and such a loyal follower, we're going to start with the Minnesota Vikings. How about that? I think they had a decent draft. One of the more underrated moves in round 1 was the Vikings trading back and getting offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, who is a very, very good offensive lineman, by the way. They could have stayed at 14 and taken Darrisaw, and it still would have been a good pick, but I think a good move. It's always dangerous, though. If you like a guy, I got into this with Captain Jack a little bit, and we were on the same page. If you like a guy, you trade back, you're taking a chance on losing him. I always hate it when guys go, "Oh, they could have waited and taken him." Well, they don't know that. If you're in love with a guy, you better take him then and there. I don't care how high you're picking him. If it's viewed as too high, well, it's too high. But if that's your guy, you take your guy. But the Vikings got away with it and got the guy they wanted, which was Christian Darrisaw. The Vikings, let's see, look, Rick's comment here is the Vikings draft will be underrated because no glamorous names, but they address their biggest need, offensive line. I agree. Good draft for the Vikings. Also, I think a really good move by them on their day 2 picks when they took Kellen Mond at number 66, who I am a big fan of. Kellen Mond. I think his upside is really good. He was up and down in college. He would look like a superstar one day, and then the next day, the next game, he would not be quite as Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But he's not going to push Kirk Cousins right away. But he's going to be I think he's going to be a viable starting quarterback candidate for that team down the line. So I think that's a good selection by them. Rick just mentioned the guard that they took, Wyatt Davis, I believe he's referring to, which will certainly help in the running game. And with Cook there, dressing that offensive line is important, and it'll help Cousins too. Not a big Cousins fan. I do not think the Vikings or any team is going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Just doesn't have that pizzazz. That little something he's missing that he can get this team over the top, or any team over the top. It's not just the Vikings. Had an interesting pick as well with Chaz Surratt, who's a converted quarterback, but he's got the physical traits to play inside or outside linebacker. So a nice pick there. Defensive end Patrick Jones, situational pass rusher. Everybody needs edge rushers today. It's another big position, right, for everybody. So any surprises there? I think it was a solid draft. He did take a running back from Iowa State. I'm going to butcher names all day today, so I apologize. I like the running back that they took out of Iowa State, Kenye Nawangawu. And they got some tight ends. They got some wide receivers near the back end of the draft. All in all, I think a pretty good draft for the Vikings. And obviously Rick agrees, as we can see by his comment, which will kind of pop back up here again. Underrated because of no glamorous names. Glamorous names aren't what it's about in the NFL draft, right, guys? It's just not. So anyway, I think good job by the Minnesota Vikings. We will jump into the Jets here because I think Drew's a bit of a Jet fan. Then we'll go maybe to the Bills for Dave Guyette, and then maybe we'll go to my team, we'll go to the Giants, and then we'll jump around the league a little bit. So let's look at the Jets draft. I think the Jets did a really, really good job. First of all, let's remember, I think they should have kept Sam Darnold and got him some weapons. That was once that was gone, though, they had no choice. They had the number 2 pick. They could have traded down, but I think they did the smartest thing they could. They took Zach Wilson, who's still, again, he's 23 years old. He's a second-ranked quarterback in this draft, but I don't think there's a sure thing in this draft except for Trevor Lawrence. But we'll see about that. They'll use him as a kick returner. I'm assuming you're talking about the converted quarterback we were talking about too. Or I'm sorry, maybe you were talking about the running back. I'm not sure, Rick. You can kind of clarify that for the Vikings. Yeah, I got to remember, guys. You're the more places I share to live, the slower the comments come up, the more of a delay. So let's see what he put up here. Oh yeah, well, we're on the Jets now anyway. We'll go to the Giants next, Drew, since I know you're only here for the first hour. So again, I think the Jets did a really good job here. Zach Davis. My God, I wanted to call him Mac Jones, Mac Davis. I've called him Zach Wilson, Trevor Wilson. Man. Anyway, the Jets did the smart thing, the only thing they could do at number 2 and take Zach Wilson. I think they did a good job with their second pick of Vera Tucker at the guard from USC. They needed offensive line help. They addressed the wide receiver, another weapon for Wilson, in Elijah Moore, who a surprise fell into number 34, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Nice player. Yeah, Rick was talking about the running back. And I'll tell you what, a steal of this draft might be Michael Carter from North Carolina. Running back. Went in the 4th round, 107. Now, running backs are not as highly rated as or sought after in the draft as they have been in years past because of the way the game is played today. But this kid could be a game changer for the. He was, by the way, he was the first Michael Carter they took. They took a second Michael Carter, who's a safety out of Duke, in the 5th round. So good draft, I think. I got to get, not being a Jet fan, I think the Jets did a really good job, a really great job at getting Elijah Moore where they did, and a tremendous job getting Michael Carter in that spot. So good job by the Jets. Awesome. Let's dive into, we'll go to the Giants now, since Drew, I mistook Drew for a Jet fan. I'm not sure how I did that. I apologize, Drew. Giants, interesting. The Giants traded back, which I think they did a really good job here. There was a lot of talk about the Giants taking Micah Parsons. That's a place where it could blow up in your face because he's a great player. Sat out last year because of COVID, but he's also got some maturity issues that have to be a red flag. And if you're Dave Gettleman, with where you are with this team right now, I don't think you need to put a Micah Parsons into the mix there. So Dave Gettleman, who did a lot of moving around in this draft, traded back and he also traded some stuff in this draft, but he got a first rounder next year, the Bears' first round draft pick. So the Bears could trade up and take Justin Fields, which again, I think is a horrible place for Justin Fields to be with Nagy. And they wrecked Mitch Trubisky. And I think it's going to be, Billy, hope you made it for the Jet segment. We can talk more about it. If you want to dive into anything, Billy, bring it up. We can back up. I gave the Jets a pretty good rating. I think they did a really good job. But if you've got something you want to bring up, certainly feel free to do that. Good morning to Kenny Gifford as well. We're on the Giants right now, and I think they did a really good job with trading back to that 20 spot and still getting another weapon. Daniel Jones is in a make-or-break season here. Daniel Jones is either going to progress and really do well, or if he regresses, probably both he and Gettleman are going to have some trouble after this year. But they took Kadarius Toney, who's a speedy slot target. He comes from Florida, where they throw the ball a lot. And I think that was a good draft, a good move moving back, and also getting that first-round draft pick next year, which will give them, again, possibly, I don't see the Giants, winning 12 games or anything. So I see both that Bears and Giants picks next year being in 15, 16, 17. So they're going to be pretty valuable. Billy was out celebrating the Jets picks, I'm sure. Again, good job by the Jets. And I think that the Giants also did well with addressing their offensive line, which they've got to do better protecting Jones. Again, I get all over Jones for his fumbleitis and things like that, but the Giants have got to do a better job of protecting him, and they drafted a couple of, actually one offensive lineman. Now that I think about it, I thought they had drafted two, but they're in Iowa. So I do think they did a good job of addressing the outside linebacker position with another guy I'll mispronounce, Ojulari from Georgia, outside linebacker. Everybody's looking for those pass rushers. So what else stands out here? Anything stand out to you, Drew? I think, again, Aaron Robinson's a nice player, defensive back, cornerback out of UCF. We have quite a few players taken from UCF yesterday, by the way, or over the weekend. I'll say yesterday a lot, but the draft obviously was the last 3 days. He began his career at Alabama and moved to UCF. So I think the Jets did a really good job. And again, Ojulari, I think, is a perfect fit for the defense that they want to run. They're going to go to a 3-4 defense, and they need that edge rusher. So getting him in the middle of the second round is probably a pretty good deal for that. Let's just see. What do we got here? Why? They let a good quarterback go and draft an unknown with help. Well, we talked about that. I mean, I would have kept Sam Darnold and I would have given him the weapons. But Jets decided to go a different way. Joe Douglas, by the way, is on the clock right now. Again, if this doesn't work out, Zach Wilson doesn't play better than Sam Darnold, there's going to be somebody's going to have to pay and somebody's going to have to answer, and it's going to be Joe Douglas. There's new coaching staff in place. They're not going to pay. They're going to get some leeway here. So, they're going to pay. So the New York teams did okay, I think. Well, the New York teams, we're not done with the New York teams, are we? Actually, in deference to Dave Guyette, there is only one New York team. As I like to tell my Giant and Jet fans when they say, how can you root for a team from New England? Actually, I like to say, how can you root for a team from Boston? Patriots aren't from Boston, guys. They played in Boston at one time, but they play in Foxborough, which is 20 miles from Boston. That's not Boston. Guys like to tell me it is. It's not. Is Amsterdam Albany for you guys locally? Is Amsterdam Albany? No, it's not. So anyway, Buffalo is the only team playing. I'm sorry if I get irritable today. I'm really still so ticked off at frickin' Facebook, and I'm going to stay ticked off until this is resolved. The Bills. Now remember, the Bills did some interesting things. They'd already signed Mitchell Trubisky, which I think is a great move for them, because if something were to happen to Josh Allen, they've got a quarterback who plays the same exact game to back him up. And I think Mitchell Trubisky is going to rebuild his reputation and his career a little bit, watching this offense play and getting to play in it in practice, and who knows, maybe even in games. Yes, we know that. We know they play in New Jersey. As I just said, New York teams, I'm not sure what Carlos is referring to, but yes, Buffalo is the only team that plays in New York. Back to the Bills. I think the Bills did a good job. They had to address some of their defensive deficiencies. This team went from being one of the best defensive teams in football to one of the worst last year. They played better at the end of the season, but they still had some holes to fill, both on the offensive line and the defensive line, and they did a great job. They got Gregory Rousseau from Miami. Being a Miami Hurricane fan, this kid is really can play if he stays healthy. Really good player. There's a couple of guys that with Miami that had some injury issues that that had to be addressed. And Rousseau dropped. He kind of dropped into the second round, almost to the second round, which was a little bit surprising, but it was a good pick, good value pick for the Jets for Buffalo at 30. Boy, I'm all over the place today. I apologize. Prevagen. This show brought to you by Prevagen. We got to get these guys. I never said Mitch would carry the Bills, Carlos. I said Mitch Trubisky is a good fit for that team as a backup quarterback, because he plays the game the same way Josh Allen does, which is a true statement. It's just a fact. And I think Trubisky was ruined by Nagy in Chicago, and he can be an efficient winning quarterback in the NFL if he rebuilds his confidence and he gets with the right system. So I think being in Buffalo will be helpful for the Bills. Carlos, I don't understand Carlos sometimes. And again, Carlos, thank you. As I said on the other shows, I mean, I know that we will banter back and forth a lot, and I will demean some of your comments, but I do appreciate you being a loyal member of my audience and all of the shows, or a lot of the shows on Northeast Streaming Sports. So thank you for that. And don't ever take what I say personally. I get as you are, very passionate about what I think. And hold on, drop my mouse, guys. Sorry about that. So again, I think he'll be a good player for them. But the Bills also addressed the defensive line again in the second round with the 61st pick. They took Carlos Bassam Jr. from Wake Forest. Good pick there. Offensive tackles they went for in the third and fifth rounds with Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa and Tommy Doyle. Really good, smart picks for Buffalo to improve that line. What I was a little surprised at is they did not draft a running back. They had some injury issues at running back. They need to be able to move the ball. And where are we looking at here? They need to be able to move the ball. He's a host. I have no idea what that means. Oh, Hostetler. Well, the game isn't played that way anymore, first of all. Hostetler couldn't even make a team today. Probably Phil Simms couldn't make a team today. Allen gets hurt a lot during the season. I don't remember being hurt last year for any extended period of time. And I think Kenny's talking about good picking, even better name. So anyway, I think the Bills did a pretty good job. Not great, but again, they addressed their needs. I was again a little surprised no running back here. I really thought with their first round pick they might go running back in Javonte Williams from North Carolina, and they did not. So they didn't draft a running back in the entire draft, which I'm a little surprised at. So that's the Bills. I guess we'll jump now. Oh, Carlos, I think you're a Jet fan. I already covered them. If you got some comments, you can certainly throw them up. Let's talk about the Patriots. I'm sure Carlos will have some comments because he doesn't watch their games. Remember, guys, when I talk about the Patriots, I watch every single play of every single game. So my opinions on Cam Newton are from watching him play. He can't play anymore. He's done. The Patriots, apparently, from all reports, got exactly the guy they wanted in the first round in Mac Jones. I did not talk highly of Mac Jones leading up to this. Jack from the Mac and Jack show would constantly tell me that Nick Saban was probably whispering in Bill Belichick's ears all these sweet things about Mac Jones, and that Bill Belichick was likely to take him in the first round. Every week I said, that's wrong. It won't happen. I was absolutely way off base. It's the guy that Belichick wanted all along. I think he will be able to compete for the job. He may not start out of the gate, but he'll compete for the job in training camp. Of course, Belichick said all the right things yesterday. It said Cam Newton is the starter. Cam Newton can't play anymore, guys. His arm is shot. Can't complete passes. Campbell start. This is hilarious. Carlos, again, do you watch the games? They just drafted a guy in the first round. If you think Cam Newton is going to start for the next 2 years, I'd be shocked if he didn't make the team. He cannot play anymore. He's done. Bill Belichick knows that. He brings him back because he was a good person, brought some leadership to the team, was doing everything the team wanted to do in practice, but he can't play. Just can't play anymore. Patriots fans know that. The coaching staff knows that. I thought Jimmy G be coming back here, but Bills fans or Jets fans are annoying. That's pretty funny, Bill, because I think you're a Jet fan last I knew. Who's going to get the cryberry? Rodgers? Rodgers is going nowhere. Mac Jones will have the first injury. Carlos, I'm going to challenge you today to make one positive comment about anybody. Make a positive comment. I bring enough negative energy to this show, man. I don't know that. I think he may. The rumors were Bill Belichick was going to trade up, and I think if at some point he thought Mac Jones was not going to be there at 15, he likely would have made a move a Thursday night. Garoppolo will not go to the Patriots. The problem here is if the 49ers are really now going to have to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, because the guy who's least ready to play out of the gate of all these first-round quarterbacks is going to be Trey Lance. Now, maybe that changes in training camp, but Garoppolo's not getting traded before training camp. I would love Jimmy Garoppolo to have come back to the Patriots. The problem is now they've drafted Mac Jones, and it's very unlikely they're going to take on Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. Very unlikely. Carlos is just pushing my buttons. Well, you're good at that too, Bill. I enjoy it. I know I sometimes seem irritated, but I enjoy the back and forth. Carlos knows I like to mess with him. Wait till we get to basketball. I think, it's funny. I got a joke. I got to tell you guys, if you watch the draft show, it's funny because leading up to the draft, as I said, I did not give Mac Jones high grades or high marks or want him to be the starting quarterback for my team at any point in time, or the draft pick anyway. Let's assume he's a starter. even though Carlos thinks Cam will be the starter for 2 years. If he's a starter for 2 games, more than 2 games, this team's in a lot of trouble next year. But as soon as they picked him, I kind of reversed, and I was talking about how I love Mac Jones, and he'll be in the NFL Hall of Fame. The first player elected to Hall of Fame before his playing career ends. Anyway, other picks for the Patriots. They did a great job in round 2 getting probably, I think, potentially the best interior lineman, defensive lineman in the draft in Barrymore from Alabama. And I thought they did a good job getting an edge rusher in Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma. I like the kid Stevenson, a running back from Oklahoma as well. And then they tried to fill some places where they had some holes. I was a little surprised only one offensive lineman taken. He was a tackle, William Sherman out of Colorado. And then take a flyer on a kid from UCF, Trey Nixon. He's a little guy. But again, he could be a potential contributor down the line. Probably not going to be this year with the people that they signed. All in all, I think the Patriots did a good job. Let's catch up on some comments here. When Carlos is here, they're flying faster than I can keep up. Billy's admitting he's annoying. And then too ready is Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is ready to play. Here's the thing. Mac Jones could be the most ready guy to play of all of them. Trevor Lawrence probably. Trevor Lawrence is going to have to play. We'll talk about Jacksonville in a second, but I really like what's going on there. But Mac Jones is ready to play. My problem with Mac Jones is I don't know how good he is because of the talent that he played with in Alabama. How much of that rate? But again, you can say that about any of them. I love Devontae Smith. I think he's a generational player. He's one of the generational players in this draft, as well as Pitts, the tight end who went to Atlanta. Great players that will be around 15 years and will be generational type players. I don't know, but again, I don't know. Maybe Tavon Smith's Devontae Smith. Good grief, Devontae Smith's numbers were inflated because of all the players that played around him. So it's hard to tell. You know what? I'm going to give the Patriots more than a B+. They're going to get an A- in my book. It's all going to depend. I mean, they got an A+. If Mac Jones works out, they get an A+. Carla, what's he saying here? They'll win 9 games for sure. The Patriots, they will. They won't if Cam Newton's the starting quarterback. Kenny, what's you got here? Carlos is not in the Bills' realm. 9 games for sure. Tom Brady and Mac Jones had the same combine pick. Oh, they probably. Believe it or not, Mac Jones is probably a little faster. He's not a runner. Mac Jones is a pocket passer, and Mac Jones, if he were to play this year, which I hope he does, because if he doesn't, this team's going nowhere. I will tell you again, unless Jimmy G gets traded to him, and it's not going to happen. Most likely, Mac Jones will be a game manager. And you guys need to remember something. 20 years ago, well, more than 20 years ago now, when Tom Brady became the starting quarterback for the Patriots, he was not Tom Brady that we know now. Facebook drafted Russia. I'm just trying to look here at a couple of things before I go on. That Mac pick is suspicious. In what way? Let me finish up here. Brady was not Tom Brady in 2001. He was a game manager. He was out there just not looking to lose games. And that was the way they played the first couple of years. Much of the first 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years, Tom Brady was not asked to go out and win a lot of games. Now he did, when called upon, play very, very well when they had to throw the football and come back in games and whatnot. But those teams were basically good defensive teams which the Patriots would probably grade out to be this coming year with the additions that they've made on defense, and Van Noy coming back, Hightower coming back from being out for the year. This team could mirror that team a lot, those teams of the early 2000s. Good defense, pass the ball around the first 3 quarters, get a lead, and then you pound the football with a running game. That's what the Patriots did. That was a formula to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And Tom Brady wasn't throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. They're not going to ask Mac Jones to do that. And Cam Newton can't do it. Watson doesn't like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, we know that. Don't get kicked off, Keith. Kicked off any. Oh, God. You can say suck. I don't care. Listen, you guys did nothing to get me my Facebook page, my TGI Sports Talk page, removed by Facebook. Some stupid robot algorithm picked up something out of context and got the page removed. And again, for Facebook not to address this and not communicate with me isn't cool, okay? They don't care about me. They don't care about you. And it is what it is. I'll be talking more about that. Cam will start and play at least 9 games, which means the Patriots will be lucky to go 500. Ricky promotes too much fun and unity. I'm not sure who that's directed at. I'm looking at Rick's old ones. Anyway, you want to make a wager? Carlos wants to make a wager for Cam starting. Well, I'll say he won't play 9. What'd you say he'd play? 9 games? I'll make that wager right now. I mean, how many games he plays is going to depend on Mac Jones. If Mac Jones is ready to play, there's no reason that Belichick will not play him game 1. Now, he might let him sit for a couple of games, but there's no reason not to play him. The only time, Tom Brady was there for 20 years and starting quarterback, so this is irrelevant, I guess. But the only other time that he's had a decision like this to make, and it wasn't a high draft pick, obviously, Brady got drafted in the 6th round, but in 2000, Brady played the best of any of the quarterbacks in camp. And the only reason he didn't start is that they had just signed Drew Bledsoe to a huge contract, and they could not put him on the bench at that point in time. He had to play himself out of the position. And as we all know, he got hurt, and that was the end of Bledsoe's career as a Patriot. There isn't that roadblock this year. There is no quarterback making $1 gazillion ahead of him. So, Carlos Santana. Everybody's got a nickname here, Carlos. You're now Carlos Santana. All right, let me move on. Again, I think the Patriots did a pretty good job. I'm going to go back now. We're going to kind of go through the league a little bit one by one, and we'll look at some of the other situations here. I want to be able to get to some Major League Baseball and at least a little bit of NBA, at least, and maybe some NHL at the end of the show. And if you guys got some topics, as always, bring them up. I'll get you a Mac Jones jersey if they win, and if they win, you get me a Visa gift card for the same price. You're on, Carlos. You're on. Remember that. Write it down because I'm going to forget. But I will take that wager. Make sure we will agree on what the price will be before the draft or before the season starts. I like that wager, Carlos. That's a good one. You don't want me to buy you a Mac Jones? I'll buy you a Cam Newton jersey. Carlos, you're a Jet fan, right? Same thing. Oh, gosh. I should have changed my banner here. We're talking about the draft. We'll leave this up. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. I'm not too happy with Jets or Giants right now, so I get a gift card. Fairweather fans are not real fans, Carlos. But you can be unhappy with your team as long as you continue to root for them. Let's jump around. Chargers. What did the Chargers do? Great job getting offensive line help for Justin Herbert, I think, who was, by the way, probably going to grade out and be the best of the quarterbacks who came out last year. I think this guy's heading in the right direction. Carlos was raised in Europe. Whereabouts, Carlos? And were you an American football fan when you were growing up, and how old were you when you came here? Just curious. I always like to know these things because I do have fans, guys. At least TGI Sports Talk had fans when we had a page on Facebook in Europe, all across Europe. I got fans in the UK. We've got about 20 followers from the UK, one being Billy's daughter. Thank you for that. Maybe it's all her friends. I don't know, but he's a true New York fan. Well, Billy, you weren't raised in Europe, though. We're all from somewhere else originally, our families. I'm distracted. Chargers, great job again with Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, to protect Justin Herbert. Great job. He also took a lineman later on in Brendan Jones from Nebraska. They used to be the offensive lineman university in Nebraska, not so much anymore. I'll tell you where I think they got a really good player was Asante Samuel Jr., who I was surprised fell to number 47. I thought there was a chance he'd go at the end of the first round, and he fell the first round. Carlos from Stuttgart. Small town Göppingen. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. So came here in the 80s. So again, one last question, Carlos, as I try to multitask here. And you loved all sports from the age of 3. So you rooted for the U.S. Sports even when you were growing up in Europe. A lot of that, as I said, I know I'm on the show. If you guys don't know, I also co-host a show on Friday afternoons with Dan Harris, who does it from the UK. Dan's a great story. He's kind of housebound because of health issues, but he does a great job with this sports show, and I enjoy doing it with him so much. And I hope, Dan, you're feeling better. Dan hasn't been feeling great, and he's cut back his workload, but we are still doing our show on Fridays. And his knowledge of the U.S. sports in the UK, living in the UK, is awesome. And Carlos, we appreciate you coming here too. In the 80s, you lived near Amsterdam? So did I. I lived like 5 miles outside of Amsterdam. Perth. Let's move on. The Dolphins. We're never going to get through all these teams, are we? The Dolphins, I think, had a great draft. They get Jalen Waddle with number 6. I really thought they were going to take Devontae Smith here. Carlos still is a fan of the Dutch soccer team. Understandable. Rick's speaking in one-letter words now. Johnstown. Oh, gosh. Yes, Johnstown, New York. Actually, wasn't that Gloversville you grew up in, Billy? Oh, Johnstown, right. Billy's answering yes. Sorry, now we've gotten off into the local banter, and half the audience that will see this later will go, what the hell are you guys talking about? All right. Dolphins will beat the Jets. Well, there we're not going out on a limb, Carlos. We finally agree. The Dolphins will beat the Jets twice, as will the rest of those teams in that division. The Jets will go winless in the division and win 6 games, I think, overall. Anyway, I really thought the Dolphins would go with Devontae Smith. They went with Jalen Waddle, which I guess you can't go wrong. He's still another great player. I just think Smith will be the better of the two overall. A really nice pick at 18 with Jalen Phillips, the defensive end from Miami. Again, if he stays healthy, he's had some health concerns. He'll be a good pick. And then they addressed some needs later on. They took a safety out of Oregon, Javon Holland, tight end, Hunter Long from Boston College. He was one of the more highly rated tight ends, and he lasted till number 81 in the 3rd round. And an offensive tackle, Layman Coleman and Gerald Doak. So I think the Dolphins did a really good job. Patriots can sweep the AFC. Well, again, not with Cam Newton. We forecast losses. Oh, AFC East. I know what you meant, Carlos. Sorry. They will potentially, they're going to have trouble beating Buffalo twice and the Dolphins twice, and they will not beat either one of them, maybe at all, with Cam Newton at quarterback. Let's see. We covered the Jets. The Ravens. The Ravens, I thought, might go running back here or quarterback. There was a lot of rumors before the draft. I don't know if I addressed it here last week or not, and I'll address it right now. That there was a lot of rumors with Baltimore potentially going with something very revolutionary. They were talking about trading up. They had 2 first-round draft picks towards the back of the first round. They were talking about trading up and drafting a quarterback, even though they had Lamar Jackson, because they've been talking again. This is just through third-party information, but I have read it through multiple sources that they've been considering going to kind of a college model with their quarterback situation. So rather than pay Lamar Jackson when they have to extend him, they would have quarterbacks matriculate and graduate. So Lamar Jackson would graduate. They'd bring in a new freshman quarterback, let's just say Justin Fields. And then they would go through the process again. Now, whether that'll work in the NFL, I don't know. Because, again, you got no stability at the quarterback situation that way. You're going to have a guy playing, at a high level for 3 years, maybe 4 years if he's really good. And then, and then you got to start over. But again, it's something that would be radical thinking and save money and cap space for other positions. So they didn't do it ultimately. They took Rashad Bateman from Minnesota with their first pick, which I like a lot. Again, wide receivers were deep, 15 taken in the first 3 rounds, to reiterate what I said earlier. They took Owen, outside linebacker from Penn State. A lot of good linebackers. Penn State is still linebacker U, it seems. Micah Parsons is a great player. Again, problem maybe off the field. We'll see. The Cowboys took him, and there's somebody that's a team that kind of looks the other way on character issues or potential character issues, and catch up a little bit. Ravens will win their division. It's quite possible. I really liked John Harbaugh as a coach a lot. I like Mike Tomlin as a coach. Don't know what the Steelers, they're going to have trouble at the quarterback position. Big Ben, they cannot pay the money, and he's done most likely from what we saw at the end of last year. Rudolph is not looking to me like a guy who can take over for him. Browns will lose too many divisional games. Not sold. Not a big Baker Mayfield fan, so I can't disagree with you there, Carlos. I like Baltimore a lot here. Keith Engel, Lamar can stop negative narrative. I'll take a look at that at some point. Is Big Ben in or out? I think it's still up in the air, Billy. They got to pay him like $40 million this year if they don't do some kind of renegotiation. They can't bring him back at that. And we'll talk more about the Cowboys when we get to them. Let's move on to the Bears. Now, the Bears traded up, and again, they needed a quarterback, and I think they got a good one. I like Justin Fields' upside. He could get hurt. He's had some injuries throughout his career, even in high school. Had a bad knee injury his senior year. If you've never watched a show on Netflix called QB1, watch it. I don't think there's any new seasons because of COVID the last couple of years, but the first 3 seasons were really, really intriguing, and the premise of the show is they follow these highly rated high school seniors who are and it talks about who the colleges are that are looking at them. We see them play football. We see them behind the scenes. We see them at home, and some of them you're going to like a lot, like Justin Fields a lot from this show. Jake DeGrom I kind of liked from that show. He was on it, the former Georgia quarterback. And then there were some guys that I can't remember their names. I don't think they've really hashed out since. But some of them are just so unlikable. It's unbelievable. But in any event, if you haven't seen that show and you're looking for something to watch on Netflix, take a look at those shows. They're fun. Carlos Stack, we'll see. Big Ben has been out since 2017. Feels is a good pick for the Bears. The problem I have with a pick for the Bears, Carlos, is the team he's going to. Nagy ruined Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, I think, has tremendous upside and had tremendous upside, and Nagy ruined him. Now, they didn't need to trade up to get him. That's a different story. But I'll tell you what, Nagy and Pace, general manager Ryan Pace, are under a lot of fire in Chicago. And if they don't win this year, they're probably going to both get fired. And, a new coach will be coming in there with maybe a decent quarterback. Well, you can't make this comment. Kenny, I can't let you say that. Well, I can let you say that. You can say whatever you want, of course. But I can't get you away with it, let it pass, because where is he a loser? He's won everywhere in his career, which is only high school and college up till now, but he's not a loser. I mean, and it's not a fair comment to make unless you know something I don't know about his character, which is upstanding. As far as I can tell. Now, his only negative side that I can see is he hasn't played a lot, and he's gotten hurt from time to time. So I'm curious. I can't call him a loser. Now, he's going to be a loser with the Bears probably, because I think they're going to struggle this year, and I think Nagy will get fired, which will be the best thing that could happen to Justin Fields. But they didn't do a bad job with their draft. I mean, I'm not going to give them an A here, but they did a good job in the second round getting Tavon Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State, to protect Justin Fields' blind side. They took another tackle from Missouri, Larry Borum, in round 5. And Tavon Jenkins, by the way, I was surprised. I was shocked he didn't go in the first round. So a good value there. And then they pick up a running back from Virginia Tech, Herbert, and Daz Newsome, a wide receiver from North Carolina, who could pan out. And the rest I'm not even going to get into. Where are we? Drew's got to fly. Have a great Sunday, Drew. Well, Drew, we can certainly jump into the Major League Baseball again next week. So anything you want to bring up, we'll chat about. We can certainly circle back on anything I bring up today. What else we got? There's Ohio State's run of quarterbacks. Well, I get it. I mean, Ohio State doesn't have a great history of NFL quarterbacks, or any history. Art Schlichter was drafted number 1, I believe. I don't know if he's number 1 in the draft or not. But he didn't pan out for a lot of reasons, not just because he couldn't play football or didn't play good football. We'll talk about him again. I think Najee Harris was a great pick by the Steelers, so we'll talk about that in a second. The Rams, they had some needs at offensive line and linebacker and wide receiver. Still not a fan of the Matthew Stafford trade. I'm just not. I don't think Matthew Stafford has done anything to warrant the Rams giving up what they gave up to get him, thinking he's that much better than Jared Goff. I think they're the same player. I wasn't a fan when the rumors were the Patriots were after Matthew Stafford. I've seen Matthew Stafford play, and Matthew Stafford is basically Drew Bledsoe, who was a really good quarterback, by the way, in a different era when quarterbacks could actually get hit. But they're basically the same player, and I don't see Matthew Stafford winning a Super Bowl. I could be wrong. Sometimes a change of scenery makes a big difference. Bill, who didn't draft an Alabama player? Almost everybody. Najee, he's talking about Najee Harris from Alabama, which we'll talk about in a second. And when the Rams get a new coach, I like McVay. But that team hasn't been the same since they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Frank, you're telling me the entire Bama team was drafted? Well, I'd have to look, but it's possible. The SEC had 65 players drafted. I'm sure a lot of them from Alabama. I doubt the whole team got drafted, but it wouldn't be shocking. It wouldn't be shocking. Looking at the Rams draft class, their top pick, they didn't have a first-round pick. Their first pick was 57 picks into the draft. So that's, again, because of trading for Matthew Stafford, right? They drafted Atwell, wide receiver out of Louisville, Ernest Jones, inside linebacker, Bobby Brown, defensive tackle. I'm just not a big fan of this draft here. I think the Rams are going to be one of the bigger disappointments in football next year myself. Yeah, good point. Yeah, you got to remember they're not all seniors. Good point, Kenny. We'll take a look. Maybe I can take a look before we get done here. If not, we'll report back on that next week. It's not surprising if they did. I mean, look at the NBA real quick. I mean, we're talking about drafts. Kentucky, when they were drafting all these great kids and really on their run when with Calipari first got there and started the one and done stuff, he get 8 kids drafted in the NBA draft in 2 rounds. 2 rounds. So, yes, it can happen with these schools that are top-notch. There you go. 10 Alabama players drafted. Minnesota, we already talked about. Let's move on from them. I really think they did a pretty good job, as we talked about earlier. Giants, we talked about. The Eagles. Now, the Eagles, interesting stuff going on here. They had 11 picks entering the draft and, very depleted roster, new coach. I think they're a rebuild. They're trying to rebuild on the fly, but I'm not sure that this team's going to rebuild and win anything with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I thought there was a chance that they may go quarterback in the first round. They did not do that. In fact, they traded back a few picks, if I remember right. I may be misremembering that, but I think they traded back a few picks and end up taking Devontae Smith, who I love, which hopefully the fact that, Jalen Hurts as their quarterback doesn't hurt his development. They also drafted a center in the second round, Landon Dickerson, out of Alabama again. So here come the Alabama guys. They're here, guys. On almost every team got somebody. Well, 10 teams got somebody. But I'm not a huge 11 picks. They traded a couple. I think they ended up with like 9 picks here. But nobody really stands out to me other than Devontae Smith. Now they filled a bunch of holes. And Dickerson tore his ACL, so again he's going to be an injury issue. He's likely to play guard and not tackle in the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. Carolina Panthers. I think they made a huge move, and I was surprised he went so early at 8 in J.C. Horn. Again, rumors that the Panthers were going to, even after trading for Sam Darnold, we're still going to trade or draft a quarterback, depending on what was there. And Fields was there for them to have, and there was a lot of rumors that he may go. But they took J.C. Horn from South Carolina, one of the top cornerbacks rated in the draft. And they took Terrence Marshall out of LSU, wide receiver, adding more weapons for Sam Darnold. Tight end, Tommy Treble, they need to from Notre Dame, which I think Carlos or somebody alluded to here a little while ago. I think he's got a lot of upside, Treble myself. And Chuba Howard from Oklahoma State in the 4th round, 126, which is kind of pretty good value, I think, right there as well. So I think, again, you guys know from me talking that I love Matt Rule. I like what's going on here. They traded Teddy Bridgewater away. That's Sam Darnold's job now. They didn't draft a quarterback. There's really nobody left in free agency that I can see really Yeah, in my opinion, Carolina has a future Pro Bowl quarterback. I agree, Kenny. I think this is a great deal for Sam Darnold. He gets to start over. He gets to play with one of the better young coaches in the football. I think Matt Rule is going to, and I'll talk about Urban Meyer in a minute too, but college coaches coming to the NFL don't always work out. Often don't work out. I think Matt Rule will be an exception. And Sam Darnold's going to get to work with Joe Brady, who's really a great offensive coordinator. He did a great job with Joe Burrow at LSU. And look at the Pacers. The Panthers played decent last year. They need to learn how to win, and they need to get better at some positions. And defensive backfield was one good pick. Excuse me, good pick for them getting J.C. Horn in the first round. And I like what they're doing. And I think Darnold, if they keep McCaffrey healthy and get Darnold heading in the right direction, I think they're going to be looking really, really good. Next, let's move on. Spent more time than I planned on here. Yeah, not too bad. Cincinnati Bengals. They were in a great spot with the number 5 pick. I'm not surprised they took Jamar Smith. We had a lot of discussion back and forth on the draft show Thursday night that they should have drafted an offensive lineman. They did that with the 46th pick, a tackle to protect Burrow so he doesn't get severely hurt like he did last year. But look, when you get a chance to draft elite wide receivers and give these young guys weapons, it doesn't matter if you protect them if they can't throw the ball to anybody. So Jamar Chase, who had a great chemistry with Joe Burrow at LSU, great pick. This was a little bit of a theme too in the NFL draft, and I won't think of all of them right off the top of my head, but the Eagles went that way with Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, who had some history at Alabama. They went the Dolphins went that way with Tua, and they took Waddle in the first round. So, and there's at least one other combination that I'm not thinking of that would seem to make sense. So I think it was a great job. And I think Cincinnati did a really good job. Again, they addressed some needs on the defensive line in the 3rd and 4th round with Joseph Osaye from Texas and Cameron Sample from Tulane. Both really good defensive linemen. They went defensive tackle right after that. So a lot of line help for Cincinnati on both sides. You win these games in the trenches, offensive and defensive lines, as we know, have to be addressed. And one of the few kickers to go in the draft as well, Evan McPherson from Florida, was drafted in the 5th round by the Bengals. So I think a pretty good job out of the Bengals there. Anything else we want to look at here? Okay, just trying to keep up with your guys' comments. The Browns. Somebody mentioned the Browns earlier. Falling backwards. I think a nice pick, getting Greg Newsome at cornerback out of Northwestern. 2 Northwestern players drafted in the 1st round, by the way, guys. Not exactly a football factory, and a great coach there in Fitzgerald. And I think one of the big steals of the draft, Cleveland got. So they addressed defense for the first 2 picks, which was very important for them to do. They do not have a good defensive team, at least heading into this draft. They took, again, Kenny, I'll like this pick, and I'll butcher his name, Asawa Koromora from Notre Dame, who I really love for the Patriots. He would have fit Bill Belichick's system like a glove because he plays all over the field. He's very versatile. He's basically an inside linebacker, but he can play outside. He could probably play line. He's the kind of guy that Bill Parcells would just eat up, and I think this is a great pick for Cleveland here. And Kenny, if you want to make a comment, because I know you have that Notre Dame connection. I think the Browns did okay with these first couple of picks for sure. Had to shore up that defense. They got another wide receiver in Anthony Schwartz from Auburn. And then they went back to the offensive line with James Hudson and more defensive guys in the 4th and 5th rounds with Tony Fields from West Virginia and Tommy Tugawa, a defensive tackle from Ohio State. And I also like the kid they took in the 6th round with the 211th draft, by the way, Dimitri Felton, wide receiver out of UCLA. Could be helpful down the line. Dallas. What can you say about Dallas? They took Micah Parsons. They trade up. They trade up to get Micah Parsons. No, they didn't trade up. I'm sorry. The Giants traded back and didn't take him. So Micah Parsons fell to him. He was one of the more intriguing figures draft night. I mean, he could have gone anywhere from 7 to falling out of the top or the first round because and he's got talent to have been a top 5 pick, but there's a lot of questions about his character. Kenny's talking about drafted defensive ends to make him the linebackers. I think they did a really good job, and I loved, as I said, Kenny, the Cormore guy, kid. I like him a lot. I wish the Patriots had actually, before they picked Mac Jones, and now I'm all behind them for taking Mac Jones, as I've done a little bit more thinking about it after the fact. I think it's a good pick, but before that, I would like to have seen him take Cormore, and I was surprised he fell as far as he did, actually. But back to the Cowboys, they had to address their defensive issues, and they did, because their top 6 picks were all defensive players. Micah Parsons from Penn State, Kelvin Joseph, cornerback from Kentucky, underrated player, not a bad pick at 44. The guy I won't be able to pronounce his name, Oda, whatever, defensive tackle out of UCLA. Chauncey Jolston, defensive end out of Iowa. Nathan Wright, cornerback out of Oregon State. And then finally, Jabril Cox, inside linebacker out of LSU, who I like a lot, actually. Pretty good pick at number 115. Then they address some needs on the offensive line. Their offensive line needs some help as well. I was a little surprised they went as heavy as they did on defense and no offensive linemen. Notre Dame not so good on the pass. I'm not worried. You're talking about Cormore, I think. I think you're right, Kenny. But again, if the Patriots had gotten him, he's a guy that Bill Parcells would have utilized, and not necessarily in pass coverage. I mean, he loves guys like that. Carl Van Noy, Mike Vrabel. I mean, I'm thinking there's a lot of guys that he had been able to utilize, both and move them around to play different positions. All the linebacker positions, play on the defensive end every now and again. Whether the Browns are good enough coaching-wise to utilize him the right way, we'll see. Interesting. You'll bring up, let me see what Kenny said here about, again, they got Dak Prescott at quarterback, Kenny. He's had to overcome this knee injury, but he's done nothing. Nothing that's happened to Dallas has been Dak Prescott's fault. I don't think. Their defense has been just atrocious. The Cowboys have scored plenty of points the last couple of years. Their defense has been awful. At least the last couple of years when Dak Prescott was playing or scored plenty of points. Their offensive line needs to be better and protect him better. I like Dak Prescott. I mean, there's a lot of guys I would take over him in the NFL. We had this debate a couple of months ago on the Mac and Jack show, whether if I'm going forward, if I want Dak Prescott or Justin Herbert. I would take Justin Herbert in a second, but that doesn't mean Dak Jones isn't one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the game. He is. At least today. Now, the injury may derail that. We'll see. Billy talks about who drafted Tim Tebow. Interestingly enough, Tebow is going to be attempting a comeback with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer, who had him in college, but not to play quarterback. He's hoping to come back as a tight end. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. What else did I miss here? Keith, look at the last part of the games. He just doesn't produce. Again, it's not just him, though. They don't put him in a position to his numbers are really, really good. Again, it's about wins and losses. I get that, but that team has not been that good. The problem in Dallas is not Dak Prescott. The problem in Dallas is Jerry Jones. And until Jerry Jones hires a real general manager to fill this roster spot out, or these rosters out, I mean, they've gone from having, for decades, one of the best offensive lines year after year to one of the worst. And their defense is a joke and has been, gosh, since I can remember. So, well, again, The problems that are there today were there when Romo was there. So I hate to stick up for the Cowboys. I really do. So anyway, not a horrible job by the Cowboys. We're going to see if these kids are any good and the defense improves, Cowboys' chances will improve in a very weak NFC East. Very weak. Billy agrees with Frank Gifford. Dallas tries to be flashy and falls asleep. Well, again, that's not Dak Prescott. That's a coaching problem. That's a leadership problem from the front office and teaching and getting the right players in the right spots. And Dak Prescott can win in the NFL, but they need help. The Broncos, again, they made a trade before the draft for Teddy Bridgewater. I did not know if that would keep them out of the quarterback sweepstakes, but it did. They drafted Patrick Surtain, the second. Again, a lot of father-son combinations, or I should say second-generational players get drafted in this draft. Pat Surtain of one of them, another Alabama product. I'll tell you, and the Bears really get, again, another, as I mentioned with Michael Carter, but in the fourth round, Javonte Williams lasted till 35th pick. So he went in the second round, early in the second round. This is a great pick for Denver. These two kids out of North Carolina are two of the best running backs in this class. And for them to go as low as they went, especially Carter, I think is some teams were sleeping. And we'll see about that. So, and then they went to they drafted some line help and defensive help because they needed a lot of it. Baron Browning from Ohio State, outside linebacker, really nice player. Then a couple of safeties, Caden Stearns and Jamar Johnson. Nothing past that really gets me excited. Jacksonville, let me see what we got here. Anything else? Did the Patriots or Tampa fall asleep on under tight end other guy? Huh? I know what you're talking about. Again, Tampa and the Patriots, if we're still talking about Dak Prescott, better defenses, better front offices, better coaching staffs. That's why they don't fall asleep. It's not Tom Brady all by himself. Dak Prescott needs, Tom Brady had all kinds of support behind him, from the front office to the playing field. Better defenses, in better situations to win football games. So I don't think it's comparable. I don't disagree. It's a quarterback's job to lead, but the quarterback can't lead the defense. The quarterback can't run the front office unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson, and we see what happens there. So anyway, Jacksonville. This is a team you got to watch. Urban Meyer, again, I think is not your prototypical college coach who's going to fail in the NFL. They had some places. They had some things in place already. Remember, this team not too long ago was playing for the AFC Championship against the Patriots. And the last few years have gone totally sour, and they didn't have a quarterback even then. But a great job here. Obviously, they took Trevor Lawrence, number one. I was impressed with their second pick in the first round. They took Travis Etienne from the running back from Clemson. Again, a guy with good chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, smart move. And he can catch the ball out of the backfield. They needed a running game to help take the pressure off of Lawrence. Etienne will make that a possibility. Then they drafted help that they needed, at other positions. They went with Tyus Campbell out of Georgia, cornerback at number 33. A lot of draft picks. Again, they had 4 of the top 65 picks here. 5 of the first 65 picks. And I think they did a great job. Andre Sisco out of Syracuse is a great story, the safety. This kid wasn't even a highly rated high school prospect. He made himself into an All-American at Syracuse. Great job by him and the coaching staff at Syracuse. So I think the Jaguars may improve quicker than people think. We'll see. What am I missing here? Brady crying again about rule changes for defensive numbers on jerseys. Nobody cares about that, Billy. Who cares about what numbers they wear? Brady's just, again, it gets picked up. He makes a comment and he gets magnified by the press. Per spelling. He meant the. Oh. No, I knew what he meant. I could read perf. That's what I'm good at. I read perf. Gosh, I'm spending the entire show on the draft here. That's okay. It's important. This is the big story today, right? Detroit Lions, great job with Sewell, the offensive tackle. They got to protect their quarterback, Jared Goff. They went defense. Their defense was just awful. Their next 3 picks were defensive guys. Again, another guy I can't pronounce, out of Washington, defensive tackle. Owen Zerke. Then Alan McNeil, defensive tackle out of North Carolina State. And nothing else really excites me about their draft. Kansas City, drafting near the bottom, obviously. Didn't have any picks in the first round. They had 2 in the second round, and they went with inside linebacker Nick Bolton from Missouri. Center Creed Humphrey. They still needed some help on the offensive line out of Oklahoma. And then, the only other thing I really liked out of their draft was potentially the tight end Noah Gray out of Duke. So we'll see how that works out. I just made Paula fall on the floor. Tell me how. What I do this time. Oh, gosh. Patriots we talked about. Buccaneers, very interesting. Their first, they made a great pick, I think, with their first round selection and Joey Tryon, outside linebacker from Washington, with a 32nd pick. One that surprised me a little bit, Larry Frank from the Frankly Speaking Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports had told us that Kyle Trask would likely get drafted in the second round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady would mentor him. Well, look, as much as I love Tom Brady, one thing Tom Brady is not excited about is mentoring his replacements. Maybe it'll be different now. He's, approaching my age. He's got to be turning 60 soon. What can he say here? Oh, you understand per spelling. I do. Hey, Facebook just sent me a message. Oh, cool. Is my page back up? It's the only message I'm interested in. I'll take a look when I get done here with the draft stuff. Anyway, back to Kyle Trask. I like Kyle Trask's upside, quarterback out of Florida, by the way. But Tom Brady's never been interested in mentoring quarterbacks. Patriots drafted plenty. Tom Brady was never interested in making them better and a potential replacement for him. The guy he mentored the most would have been Jimmy Garoppolo. And when Belichick thought he was good enough to potentially cut ties with Brady and the owner didn't want that, batch to San Francisco. All right, we're going to check this out in a second once I get through here. Kenny says the TGI Sports Talk page might be back up, which means Keith doesn't have to go nuclear and get himself kicked off of Facebook altogether. We'll check it out in a second. Washington football team, the team formerly known as the Redskins. Guys, I'll give you a little disclaimer here again. I participate on Wednesday nights from 9 to 10 on a show on Northeast Streaming Sports called the NFC East Show. And they're made up of all super fans from teams in that division, and me. The Philly sports guy is the host. Well, obviously, Jamie Paggs. If you've watched Northeast Streaming Sports, you see him everywhere. If you watch the NFL draft, you saw him several times on ABC and ESPN. He's a character, and he's a huge Philly fan, obviously. And then there's True Blue, who's a Dodger fan, and Sneaky G, who's a big Giants fan. And there's me, because there are no Washington Redskin fans. Sorry, quarter in a jar. There are no team, the team formerly known as Redskins fans, apparently, super fans who wanted to do this show. So I am a contributor from the Washington perspective. And I've made sure Pegs points out I am not a Washington Redskins fan. I'm a football fan, so I can talk about the NFC East. And I certainly follow the NFC East because of the Giants and the Jets and the Bills, or Giants and the Jets. Oh, God, the Giants and the Cowboys. Let's see. Hold on. What do we got here? Let's see what other comments we got here. Kenny thinks that what they're saying. Can I harass them? If I'm back up, don't harass them. Usually 5 days in the penalty. I've not gone to Facebook jail yet. Well, you know what? When you go, it's nice to know why you're there. If I got arrested for real jail, they'd tell me why I was there. Anyway, back to the Redskins, team formerly known as the Redskins. They needed help on both sides of the football. Well, the defense is really good, but they still needed a couple of pieces, and they went. Two of their first three picks were defensive players, and Jamean Jackson from Kentucky, who I like, offensive tackle, which they needed. And I was surprised. The big surprise here for me is that Washington did not pick a quarterback at any point in time. I thought for sure they would Fitz Magic. What a misnomer that acronym is, or that nickname is. Let's jump to the Cardinals here. I think a good job by the Cardinals. They need a tight end, a wide receiver, cornerbacks. Their first pick, of course, is an outside linebacker, which they also needed some help at. Zavon Collins at 16, nice linebacker out of Tulsa. Now, maybe you'll say the competition wasn't all that great in the AAC, but I love that conference, and I think he's a good player and will play a major part in Arizona's defense for quite a while. And I like Rondell Moore, the wide receiver they took out of Purdue. Small guy, 5'10", but again, height isn't a big deal. Little wide receivers were all over the place in this draft. And then they took a couple of players on defense, two cornerbacks, Marco Wilson and Tay Gavon from UCF had quite a few picks, Central Florida. You can see the strength of that ACC, as I said. And Victor, these guys and their names, from Duke, defensive end. Let's move on to the Falcons. I got to tell you, real quick, what do we got going on here? Kenny, Rick's been, Keith and I have seen birds are going for players that fly. Well, that's a good point. Let's move on to the Falcons, because I got to talk about, I'm glad we got to the Falcons. I hope we're getting through this pretty quickly. We still got a lot of teams to cover here, don't I? We got to speed this up. This might be the whole show. We have to change the title here. Where was I? Lost my place. Okay, Atlanta. Biggest news here, Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is probably the best player, going to have the most impact of any player in this draft. Atlanta's in win now mode. If they weren't, they would have taken a quarterback and looked for Matt Ryan's replacement. They're in win now mode. They take Kyle Pitts, who's going to really be a great player in that offense, to go along with Ridley, another Alabama guy, and Julio Jones if they don't trade him. Now, they're reportedly open to trading Julio Jones to open up some cap space. We'll see. But I think they did a really good job with Jalen Mayfield at pick number 68, offensive tackle out of Michigan. I was surprised he went that late. And another UCF player, safety Richie Grant, in the second round. So don't sleep on the Falcons. Going to be a tough division with the Buccaneers, but the Saints are going to take a step back. The Panthers are still building. Don't sleep on Atlanta, because they're obviously still in win now mode. They think they probably got 2 more really good years out of Keith Engel live from Alcatraz. You guys are killing me. Frank is the color man. Oh, gosh. Keith Engel live from Alcatraz. I like it, Bill. My mood will improve if my page is back. Bills, we talked about. Green Bay, we didn't talk about Green Bay, but I'm not excited about anything Green Bay did. They drafted Amari Rodgers, a wide receiver, to give Rodgers his crybaby help. But the rest of their picks were almost exclusively defense. They drafted a center, which, again, I hope Rodgers is thankful for that. But otherwise, they needed help on defense. And that's where they went. Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia. Really good cornerback. Late in the first round. Good pick. I like the 2 offensive line picks. Josh Myers out of Ohio State and Royce Newman out of Ole Miss. And again, they're filling a bunch of holes on defense. Texans, very interestingly, the Texans pick with their first pick. They didn't have a pick in the first 2 rounds. Their first pick was a quarterback who I like a lot, Davis Mills out of Stanford. Interesting with the issues with oh my gosh, Deshaun Watson, that they would go quarterback with that first pick they have now, late in the draft, of course, but can he sing "Turn Out the Lights" like Dandy Don? Oh, interesting stuff. You guys are killing me. So interesting. That's the most interesting thing from Houston's draft. The Raiders, nice pick for offensive tackle Leatherwood, the Outland Trophy winner from Alabama, again at 17. And I like the pick at safety, Mo Ring out of TCU. And then they draft another linebacker, Kuntz from Buffalo. Every pick until their last pick was a defensive player. Raiders need defensive players. And they went out and they got them. San Francisco, we talked about Trey Lance. Shocking to me that's where they went. I like Trey Lance a lot, but I didn't think he'd be the third pick here. And it pretty much, I think, ensures Jimmy G is going to stay in San Francisco. Trey Sermon, a running back out of Ohio State, I like a lot as well. I think that was a nice pick for San Francisco. And then they drafted some defensive back help and offensive lineman. Also like Elijah Mitchell, their last pick, a running back out of Louisiana, I like a lot. He could be a sleeper to kind of keep an eye on. The Seahawks only had 3 picks in the entire draft. Nothing to get excited about here. I like Trey Brown a bit, cornerback out of Oklahoma. But the Seahawks, pretty much had traded all those picks elsewhere. Raiders have a quarterback coming. Who's that, Kenny? Right now they've got, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised, and I wouldn't be shocked if Marcus Mariota beat out Derek Carr to be the quarterback there. Not sure who Kenny's referring to coming. But the Patriots were interested in Marcus Mariota during the offseason before he re-signed with the Raiders. So the Colts didn't do any favors for Carson Wentz, their new quarterback, as they drafted 2 defensive players with the first couple of picks. Their defense is already pretty strong, and I think they really need to upgrade some offense. Their running backs are really good. And they did take a tight end, Kyle Granson from SMU with a third pick, their 4th round pick. And interesting enough, they took Sam Ehlinger, who I think has got some upside in the NFL at quarterback from Tennessee. The Saints, I see nothing to get excited about with the Saints. Peyton Turner, defensive end from Houston, is okay. And Ian Book. The most interesting pick for the Saints is Ian Book, Notre Dame quarterback. 4th round. I kind of thought he was going to go in the 5th round myself. He's a guy, if the Patriots had not gone for Mac Jones or one of the top quarterbacks, I was big on a couple of guys. Kellen Mond, who ended up going to the Vikings, and Ian Book, who now goes to the Saints. And we all know the interception machine, Jameson Winston is their new quarterback. Can't give away his spy. Raiders after Rodgers. You know what? Rodgers isn't going anywhere. Here's the thing about Rodgers. No leverage. Say you're not coming back. If I'm the Packers, I play hardball with him and don't let him. Who cares? Walk away. Walk away. You're not going to get the Jeopardy job. So the Steelers, our last team, the Steelers. I like their 1st round pick. Now, they got some problems at quarterback. They don't draft a quarterback. I'm a little surprised they didn't take a quarterback somewhere in this draft. But they did a pretty good job. I like Najee Harris a lot. I thought 3 running backs would go in the 1st round for the first time since 2013, I think. We got 2 and almost got to 3, but Harris went with pick number 34. Or I'm sorry, Javonte Williams went with pick number 34. Harris was the 24th pick by Pittsburgh. I think they did a really good job there. I like their pick of Fairmouth from Penn State, the tight end. And then they went for some help on the offensive line and Kendrick Green and Dan Moore. and Buddy Johnson from Texas A&M was their first defensive pick. So again, I think that team will potentially compete in the AFC. What is that league? That's the South? No, the North. Sorry, the North. And I guess we'll see what will happen there. Mark Robertshaw likes Trey Lance a lot. Mark, thanks for coming in. Mark is the king of the bad pun. Actually, very funny, though. Mark's a very funny guy. Good job there. Let's check something quick, guys, before we pivot to baseball for a little bit. Maybe we'll sneak some NBA in here. But I have a rumor that my page is back. Let's see what happens when I click on it. You guys will be the first to know whether I'm out of Facebook jail. Well, not there. I got a message from Facebook. I don't know how you guys know that. Looking at my messages, great TV, I know. Well, I don't see anything from Facebook here. And I'm not seeing TGI Sports Talk coming up. Let's see if I just look for it here. Bear with me, guys. We'll switch to some baseball here in a second. Oh. No, that's my other group, the one I test to. Well, TGI Sports Talk. Come on, let me click on that. Well, I'm getting some videos. Good morning, everybody. As you can probably hear, by Kevin Kernan. I don't know. I got to look deeper into this, guys. I don't know if I'm back or not. If somebody can search for the page and let me know if it's there, that would be awesome. I don't see it linked. Yeah, I don't see it linked to my homepage. Doesn't mean it's not back up. We'll see. We'll see. Oh, you guys were kidding me? Oh, that was my comment that I quoted. Did I say that? Well, I probably said it, not meaning it to be funny, I guess. Popped up on this screen. Oh, no, maybe I said that. I might have put a message up here, Kenny. Yeah, I'm not seeing... Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm back up or not, Kenny, but you got my hopes up. If I don't get back soon, listen, guys, the show's going to stay. I'm going to be broadcasting. If I stay on Facebook or not, you'll find a way to get to the show, I promise you. I don't know. It's hard to get off of Facebook, right? It's where I know. It's what I built my freaking fan base on. And don't get me going. Let's look real quick. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball here. I want to talk a little bit of stuff. We're going to take a quick look at the standings and surprise teams. And for real, I want to go through real quick some stories and see if they're, I think they're real or unreal, which meaning they won't last. But let's see what we got some time for here, Major League Baseball wise. In the AL East, the Red Sox are the big surprise with the start they've gotten off to. I still don't see it lasting for them. The big disappointments are definitely the Yankees, the Jays, the Rays, and their slow starts. Now, the Yankees have played better. They're playing 7-3. They're 7-3 the last 10 games, playing better. Where are you? It has to stay on. I have no. I'm not going anywhere. I may go somewhere else if Facebook doesn't do right by me. If I have to start all over and build my whole fan base, it's not going to be a lot of fun. It took me a year and 1,000 hours of work to get the content and the followers that I have now, and I need my page back intact. And Facebook has got to make it right, or I probably won't appear on Facebook. Get me on YouTube live. There's other platforms out there I can go to, and we'll talk about that if the time comes. You guys will find me somewhere. I'm going to start doing some shows on Sunday morning outside once the weather gets better. But I'm going to do some testing when I'm off here in a couple of weeks. Real quick on the Yankees, I think finally they make a smart move. Their starting pitchers are starting to pitch a little better. The hitters are starting to hit the ball out of the park like they were expected. And the best news of all, yes, they should have reached out. 5 days and counting, not a word back from Facebook. Ridiculous. Back to the Yankees and ridiculous. Finally, Gary Sanchez is no longer the starting catcher for the Yankees. Should have been moved. The move should have been made during the year. Higgy will be our starting catcher for the most part going forward. He's played very well defensively and offensively for the Yankees. We'll see how he does with a heavier workload, though. The Yale Central, again, the Royals start is the big surprise here. They're 16-9, 7-10 they're 7-3 their last 10 games, so they've done well. The biggest disappointment's got to be the Twins at 9-16. They have not played good baseball, and they were my pick to win this division. No other big surprises there. The White Sox are playing okay, and the Tigers are terrible. The Indians are up and down. In the West, the A's the A's awful start, and then 11-game winning streak. I didn't ask in Russian. I'll put this up because it's funny. I didn't ask in Russian. I'm not going to get into a political conversation here, but oh, interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about that, Rick. I want to bring that up again, and let me know the date on that because I want to bring something up. We're hoping to do a show from there. I won't be there, but Mac from the Mac and Jack show is talking about doing a show live from there. Maybe I'll go. I don't know. He's trying to see if he can get in to do it. Oakland, again, they got off to a horrible start, had an 11-game winning streak. Now they've kind of, started to kind of come back to earth. They're at 16-12, still in first place. The Astros have started to right themselves, going 8-2 the last few games. The Mariners were a bit of a surprise early, but they've kind of centered themselves. And the Angels are kind of hanging in there. The big surprise in the National League East is that no teams are over 500. The Braves, my pick to actually go to the World Series from the National League and upset the Dodgers and the Padres, the two favorites, are just not scoring many runs. They're 12-15, very surprising. They look like they were getting it together earlier this week, and it still hasn't happened. The Mets are 10-11, playing very uneven baseball. They got a lot of flaws on defense. The fans are booing Lindor. Not pretty in New York in any way, shape, or form right now. And the Phillies are in first place at 13-14. So this division is pretty bad right now. The Central, the Brewers, no surprise. I picked them to win this division. The Cardinals are not too far behind. The Reds got off to a really quick start. They were the surprise early on. But again, they've fallen backwards pretty quickly. They're 3-7 their last 10. They're under 500. And the Pirates and the Cubs are just not any good. And in the West, the big surprise is the Giants at 16-11 in first place alone. The Dodgers, who are flying out of the gate, have really played horribly. 2 wins in their last 10 games. Are actually tied for second with the Padres, who are about where they need to be. They probably need to play together a little bit and build some chemistry, but they've got a really, really good pitching staff out there. And the Diamondbacks are a bit of a surprise, I guess, as well, being over 500 as we end April. Let me see if I can find my notes here. I wanted to talk about some stuff when it comes to Major League Baseball. Where's that story I wanted to talk about? Where's my notes? Yeah, I may have lost it. Now. But that's okay. One thing I did want to talk about when it comes to baseball is Madison Baumgartner's no-hitter last week. 7-inning no-hitter, which is not a no-hitter. Can't be called a no-hitter because it was only 7 innings. Because they played a doubleheader that can only be 7 innings. They put a rule in 1991, Major League Baseball put a rule in because they'd had a couple of games, I think pitched by both Melito and Pascual Perez. One 5 innings, one maybe 6 innings. There were no hitters. Rain shortened games. They went into books as no hitters. Major League Baseball put in a rule that it had to be 9 innings at a minimum to be considered no hitter. Well, I don't think they took into consideration the fact that someday they were going to have 7-inning games, full games, 7 innings, every doubleheader. It's not Madison Bumgarner's fault that he can't pitch 2 more innings. He's not allowed to. The game ends after 7 innings. Has to be a no-hitter. What a stupid rule. Rob Manfred, I mean, maybe the rule's not stupid. Excuse me. But the fact that we're playing 7-inning baseball games is stupid. And this is just a byproduct of that. Let's see what we're going to. I'll get back to your Hall of Fame thing here in a second, Rick. Baltimore make the series and wins. You don't see that happening. It's back to basketball. Where's my secretary? Well, in high school, it is 7 innings, so you get credit for a no-hitter. Yes, Kenny. But if you're pitching in major leagues today in the first game of a doubleheader, you wouldn't get it. Interestingly enough, the Diamondback starter in the game 1, I think it was Zach Gallen, pitched a 1-hitter and had a no-hitter into the 7th, and the announcers were talking about it and realized that it couldn't be a no-hitter. And they couldn't call it a no-hitter. So could you jinx it? I think that's what they were joking about. It. We can talk about it's happening because we can't jinx it. Well, they did jinx Jack Gallen. He didn't get it. But oddly enough, in the second game, Baumgartner pitches a no-hitter, and he can't get credit for a no-hitter. It's not his fault he couldn't pitch 2 more innings. The rules said he couldn't. Oh, my God. Absolutely ridiculous, right? You can't make this stuff up, guys. I don't understand what Major League Baseball is actually thinking about, right? But apparently, they think they're on the right track to fixing the game that wasn't broken. Great job. Let's talk about a couple of quick starts by some guys or teams that we think are real or not real. Carson Kelly for the Diamondbacks, catcher, really good catcher. He had a solid first season in 19 before COVID. But he's off to a hot start, hitting .318, slugging 705, 5 HRs and 12 RBIs. He's a good player and he's a good bat. He's not gonna continue this pace. His OPS isn't going to be 1,200, but he's a good player, and I think that start is for real. The Braves, Marcell Ozuna, off to a horrible start. 185, 298 on base percentage, 235, 2 extra base hits. What a horrible start. Is this for real? All of the Braves are struggling and scrapping with the bat. He can't be that bad, but I don't think he's as good as advertised either. I think he's a flawed player potentially, especially defensively. But he's going to come back. Is he going to be an MVP candidate? No. But I don't think it's real. Cedric Mullins for the Baltimore Orioles, who I think Kenny just alluded to, making the World Series. He's hitting .365 with 3 homers and 9 doubles, slugging .576 here in April. He's a nice player. I've actually picked him up, dropped him a couple times for my fantasy team. But this guy, he's been around a little while in the farm system, and he's getting a chance to play because the team is so bad and so bereft of talent. So I don't think it's real. I think he will come back to earth. I think he might be a dice player. He's not a star. So I don't think this will last. For the Red Sox, Garrett Whitlock has a 0 ERA in 11 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts and 1 base on ball. They kind of stole him away from the Yankees, and he looked like a potential starter for the Yankees after posting some pretty good minor league seasons. But then he had Tommy John surgery, and the Yankees let him slip through the Rule 5 draft. I think this kid's for real. I was really upset when the Yankees let him slip away. So, again, I think that will be for real. And the Red Sox have got a gem in the making there. Kyle Hendricks for the Cubs, 1-2. This is a bad one. 1-2, 5.68 ERA, 7 home runs already in 19 innings. Cubs are bad, but Hendricks isn't that bad. He's not going to, he's been a steady pitcher for a long time. He's not a superstar. He's not a number one starter, which he is for the Cubs right now. He only throws in the mid-80s. But I don't think this is for real. I think he'll straighten himself out, but he won't have a great record because he's not playing on a great team. On the upside again, across town in Chicago, Yermin Mercedes still hitting .414 with 4 homers. His OPS is over 1,100. Now he's got some real ability, especially with the bat, and he's been crushing fastballs. But I don't know. I mean, he doesn't really. His minor league track record shows he can hit, but he doesn't really have a position. And I'm not sure that he's going to be able to stay at the DH position all the way along. I think he'll fall from grace here sooner than later. If he probably won't even finish over 300 would be my guess. Going over to the National League, you've got the Cincinnati Reds with Tyler Naquin. Who the heck is Tyler Naquin before the season started? He's slugging .596 with 6 homers and 19 RBIs. He's been in the farm system forever. He was a first-round draft pick of Cleveland in farm systems. He's been in the minor leagues mostly. Since 2012, he was a first-round pick for Cleveland. But he's battled injuries and inconsistencies, and suddenly he's getting a chance to play in a platoon role for the Reds. But I don't know. This is one I'm not sure. I mean, a couple of these home runs have been over 450 feet, so he's been hit really well. And I think if he continues to get some bats, he'll be a serviceable player. But I don't think he's going to keep up this pace. I don't think he's going to hit. That would be 35 or 40 home runs. Not going to happen, I don't think. Zach Plesac for the Indians, 1-3. Horrible start, 5.81 ERA, only 18 strikeouts in 26 innings. He was a very popular pick to be a breakout player this year, and it's not happening. And with this Indians team, I don't see him getting any better. Going to the Rockies, one of the mainstays of the Rockies for the last decade, I guess, or close to it, has been Charlie Blackmon, the outfielder, who was really a 5-tool player for a long time, and he no longer is. He's hitting .148, only 1 home run. I said before the year he was on the downside of his career. This might be for real. And again, Coors Field has come into play for Charlie Blackmon, and he may get traded away here. The Rockies are going to be in sell mode, and somebody will likely take a chance on Charlie Blackmon for, it won't cost them much probably because of the start he's off to. I would see somebody taking a chance on him, and maybe he can turn it around. But the problem is he's got the Coors Field thing hanging over his head as well. The Tigers, as bad as they are, Matthew Boyd is 2-2 with a 1.82 ERA. Only 1 home run allowed in 34 innings. He's off to a great start. But again, I'm not sure whether this is going to be for real or not either. I mean, he's not somebody who is a big prospect, and he's not playing on a very good team. So I don't think that's going to continue for him. How about Jose Altuve, former Tri-City Valley Cat? Unfortunately, caught up in the whole cheating scandal of stealing signs with the Astros. But he's come back after a down year last year. He's hitting .347 and slugging .469. So he's come back, and he's gosh, I don't know how old he is. He's got to be in his early 30s at least. Now, the thing is this for real or just a hot streak? I think it's for real because he's striking out less. Altuve was always a guy who put the ball in play and force you to make a play. He doesn't have the power that he had a few years ago, but I think that this will not continue for him. What else? I had a bunch of other ones. I don't know how much I can get through here. So we're running out of time. We're not going to get any NBA in today. Let's look at a couple other things that I had jotted down as potential things to look at. Jazz Chisholm for the Marlins, slugging .544 with 4 homers and 6 stolen bases. I love those guys who bring speed to the game as well as power, and there isn't enough of that now. He's just a kid. He's only 23 years old, and I think his future's bright, and he's got 30-30 potential. We'll see. I think he could be for real. But the Marlins are so bad, it's going to be very hard to sustain that this year. For the Brewers, Freddie Peralta, we talked about the Brewers pitching staff, and Freddie Peralta is the 3rd starter, I believe, if you want to look at them ranked. He's off to a really good start, 38 strikeouts in 22 innings. That's Jacob deGrom territory. And I think he's for real. He's pitching differently. And I mean, he's left-handed. He'll be able to pitch until he's probably 100. And he doesn't get the press everybody the other pitchers get. Corbin Burnson and Woodruff get all the press there. But Peralta, I think, is for real. We won't talk about that one. Let's talk about Lindor. This is not for real. He's hitting .210 with 1 home run, .274 slugging percentage. I think he's probably putting a lot of pressure on himself with a big contract, and the Met fans are starting to boo him. I don't think it's for real. I think he will come back. Gleyber Torres only hitting .200. No home runs. I don't think this is for real. Or actually, I take that back. I'm going to switch this up. Originally, I'd written down, I don't think it's for real, but I think it's for real. Because he's playing out of position. And it's affecting his offense. And until he gets moved back off of that position, I think he's going to struggle. Plus, this goes back. This isn't just this year. This goes back to last year. He really struggled with the bat last year. And ever since he's been moved to first base, his contact numbers aren't great. Make contact. He doesn't have a great approach at the plate. I mean, they can fix him, but until they fix put him in the right spot on defense, I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot more we could talk about, guys, but we're not going to. We're going to wrap it up here today. I didn't get to the NBA. I didn't get to the NHL. We spent a lot of time on the NFL, which makes sense. I appreciate all you guys being with me. It looks like I'm not out of Facebook jail. I'll take a quick look after this show, and I'll be posting. If I don't hear something from them here tomorrow or Tuesday, as I approach 7 days of this, I will be probably posting several live videos. Probably not to Northeast Streaming Sports, not to Zodiac TV, certainly, but to my private page, ripping them badly. I will go nuclear on Facebook until they ban me entirely. And I'll let you guys know where I'll be going if I have to go. I don't want to go. Facebook doesn't care if I go. I know that. But, we'll do what we have to do to keep the show alive. I've done work too hard to do this. I have too much fun doing it to let Facebook jerk me around. I mean, I've got followers that can't see this. 12 or 1,300 followers over there. They're not all my friends on Facebook, so they don't see it on my personal page. They haven't all become followers of Northeast Streaming Sports. And if you haven't, guys, follow Northeast Streaming Sports, because then you will see my show. But there's, 700 people over there who won't see this. Maybe they'll see it if they belong to one of the groups. If you are watching it from one of the groups that are on my private page. I mean, here's the other thing. I got 100 groups I belong to that I can't share the show to get new followers. And I don't know what happens if I'm down for 2 weeks. Maybe I lose half my followers. Just so mad. All the work I put in. I'm not making any money here at Facebook. And I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be doing. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Guys, I'll be back next Friday. Denny McLain, the last 30-game winner in Major League Baseball. We're going to have a great time that day. I'll be back next Sunday with my Stream of Consciousness show. I'm going to try to get a vlog up. I didn't do a vlog this week because I was too angry. And we do a live update Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7:30. Just a 10-minute quick sports update on Zodiac TV and Northeast Streaming Sports. Look for me there. Guys, have a great Sunday. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, Northeast Streaming Sports. We'll see you later. Turn me back on Facebook.